So I've been reading through the Old Testament, just kind of leisurely going through it. Not like trying to finish it or anything. That book is fucked. I don't know if anybody's ever read it, but one thing about the Old Testament is, in the Old Testament, God's kind of a prick. He's like kind of braggadocious and shit. Abraham's wife, Sarah. What's going on, man?
What's up, Mama?
Abraham, he does. I know. I love him too. Abraham's wife, Sarah. She's older at this point, right? And God just stops by with some dudes to get something to eat. He's like, he says something about he's going to give her a son in like a year. And Sarah's like, oh man, well, she didn't say, she's not talking like that. It's like, I'm too old, you know? And she kind of laughs. And he gets all butthurt. He's like, you think the Lord can't do that? And it's like, settle down, man. He's kind of like that. I've always maintained that God of the Old Testament is actually Satan. And reading through this book, there's not a lot that has been done to change my mind. So in this same kind of time period, this is in Genesis, right? So in the same kind of time period, he's, Abraham is telling God that if there's anyone, it's in a section called Abraham pleads for Sodom. What it is, you know, they have numerical kind of chapters, and then each chapter has its sort of sub-chapters that are just labeled by like a title, like so-and-so goes to the lake, or Lot and his daughters, or whatever. So there's the chapter, sub-chapter called Abraham pleads for Sodom. I don't know, people think you're going to just vanish off the sidewalk. Like, well, single file, man. Do like the Tuscan Raiders do. I'm not jumping into the street for you. I mean, it's not going to happen. But, so, Abraham pleads for Sodom. And he's talking to God. He's like, you know, what if there's, like, good people in Sodom and Gomorrah? You're going to just wipe away everyone, you know, the wicked and the righteous? And God's like, if there are 50 good men in that city, I'll spare the whole place. So then Abraham's like, and this is where another time where this book is intentionally hilarious, unintentionally hilarious. So then Abraham's like, Lord, I don't mean to whatever, you know, I'm just ashes, and you're the Lord, you're great, I'm not so great, but, you know, if you'll allow me, what if there was only 45 good men, righteous men, in Sodom and Gomorrah? And God's like, if there's 45 good men in that city, I will spare the entire city. So Abraham then goes to the Lord, Lord God, you are so wonderful. I'm just a nothing, a flea, an ant. I apologize. You know, he does this whole thing about how he's terrible. God's great. You're great at basketball. I'm not. This whole thing. So then he's like, what if there's 40 men? And God's like, if there are 40 righteous men, and this goes on until they get down to 10. This is a big, long thing. Like, instead of just saying, what if there's one guy? What if he goes by fives. I don't know how God didn't backhand him, but, which is something he would do in this book anyway. So then they go through this whole thing. What if there's 30? What if there's 25? If there's 25, my God, I am just a flea, but I must ask again. So this all ends, and then and the chapter ends. It goes into the next one, and this is how the chapter ends, and then the new chapter title appears, or a new subchapter. He's like, so then the Lord left, and Abraham turned and went back into his tent. Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed. That's the name of the next one. The timing is really comedic. It's great because they go through this whole thing, and then you see the name of the next chapter. You know, spoiler alert, he destroys the city. So there's one good guy in the city, I guess. Doesn't seem very good to me, but his name's Lot. And these angels show up there because God's decided he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. So between the end of the chapter where he said if there's like 10 good men, he'll spare it. So apparently he doesn't think there's 10 good ones. I guess they figured out Lot was the only good guy there. So these two angels show up, and they come to Lot. They come to Lot's house. He's got 2 daughters, and they show up there, and all the evil townspeople go to Lot's house, and they're like, hey, those 2 guys that... Oh, Lot invited these guys to stay at his house. The 2 angels invited them to stay at his house. So they're staying over at Lot's house, having a sleepover. And this is how it's worded. The townspeople came and start yelling for Lot to let them have the 2 men so they can have sex with them. They start yelling for Lot, like, Lot, the 2 men who are staying in your house, bring them to us so we can have sex with them. These are the words, right? So Lot, who's a righteous man, is like, look, I got 2 virgin daughters. You can do what you like with them. Okay? That's what he says. But, you know, these men can't be touched because they're here to destroy the city. This book is fucking bonkers. So before they had to give up his virgin daughters, the angels are like, no, take your family, get the fuck out of here. We're going to destroy everything. We're going to destroy everything. So he goes to his future sons-in-law. His 2 virgin daughters were meant to be wed. So he goes to the 2 guys, and he's like, look, take them to the out of the city. And the angels are like, you got to go up to the mountains. And for whatever reason, Lot is like, no, I can't go to the mountains. Let me stop at this place called Zoar. Z-O-A-R, this small town, which apparently was full of a lot of degenerates too, because they couldn't stay there. They had some problems there. So it was Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters. And the angels were like, all right, go to Zoar while God destroys this fucking city with molten lava and shit. He rained molten ash from the sky, destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And good, those guys were fucked, but Lot's not much better. So they're making their way to this town, Zoar, and the angels told them, don't look back, like, don't look at this place, just keep moving, keep moving. So Lot's wife looks back, right? And she turns into a pillar of salt. And that's why Indiana Jones told Marion not to look at it. God's power, man. I'll turn you into a pillar of salt. So anyway, they get away from Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah get destroyed. Lot and his 2 surviving daughters of the family. And I don't know, I think the sons-in-laws got killed too. Something happened to them. They didn't make it out. I think God was only going to protect Lot and his family, like his real family. So I think he had the future sons-in-laws, he had them killed too. Because he's a prick like that in the Old Testament, you know? So they get out of Zoar, because Zoar ends up being like a really degenerate place too. I guess everybody's trying to fuck them again. So then they go up in the mountains to live in a cave. Lot and his 2 daughters. So now his daughters are like, well, our future husbands are dead. and our mom was killed, we have to have sex with dad to keep our family line going. But, you know, he's a righteous man. He's not going to like that. So let's get him drunk. So one night they get him wasted. One of the girls has sex with him. He impregnates her. The next night, they get him drunk again. And then the other daughter has sex with him. And they have, and she gets pregnant. The Bible, everybody. Don't blame the teacher. Blame the school.